the velocity of integrity. Integrity is not the agreement between speech and action. That is merely its visible wake. Integrity is the speed at which fragmentation returns to wholeness. Few have measured this velocity because most search for honesty among words rather than among gravities. Everything possesses a gravity. A stone possesses the gravity of stone. A promise possesses the gravity of memory. A fear possesses the gravity of anticipation. A lie possesses the gravity of maintenance. Every falsehood must continually be held aloft. Truth does not. Therefore, integrity is not strength. Integrity is the absence of unnecessary lifting. The exhausted often mistake themselves for burdened by existence, when they are merely carrying architectures that require constant maintenance. Observe the tower built from exceptions. Observe the cathedral assembled from explanations. Observe the kingdom defended by justification. Each requires perpetual repair. The mountain asks for nothing. The first corruption is not deception. It is acceleration. Not every movement is progress. Some velocities outrun their own center. A wheel detached from its axle travels quickly. Its speed is undeniable. Its direction is catastrophic. Thus, there exists a movement that is slower than stillness. And there exists a stillness that outruns light. Those who cannot distinguish these become servants of momentum. They confuse arrival with velocity. Every perception contains two arrivals: the arrival of the object and the arrival of the observer. Almost no one notices the second. They imagine themselves already present. Yet the observer reaches every moment carrying centuries of unfinished weather. Old grief, borrowed certainty, inherited vocabulary, invisible contracts. The object is seen. The observer remains unseen. Thus the observation becomes distorted before seeing has even begun. Integrity begins where the observer finally becomes observable. The mirror has never lied. Only the direction of attention has. A mirror reflects without preference. A mind rarely does. Preference edits. Fear crops. Memory recolors. Expectation sharpens one edge while dissolving another. Then certainty signs its own forgery. How elegant the counterfeit. How convincing the familiar. Some seek purity. Purity is frequently brittleness wearing white garments. Integrity survives contamination. Gold remains gold beneath mud. A compass functions while storms scream. Integrity does not demand untouched conditions. It reveals stable orientation amid unstable circumstances. The greatest fractures are invisible because they are symmetrical. One may possess identical beliefs, identical speech, identical companions, identical enemies, identical rituals, and yet become divided. How? By assigning authority to appearances rather than participation. One performs coherence. One ceases becoming coherent. Performance always requests an audience. Integrity requires none. There exists a chamber with no walls. Many spend their lives imprisoned within it. Its boundaries are composed entirely of conclusions. The prisoner believes the chamber is reality. The key is not hidden. The key has merely refused to become another conclusion. Knowledge accumulates. Wisdom evaporates. Understanding circulates. Integrity neither accumulates nor evaporates. It aligns. Alignment possesses curious properties. It produces less noise. It requires fewer defenses. Its explanations become shorter. Its compassion becomes longer. The universe does not appear fragmented. Only maps do. The territory remains embarrassingly complete. Maps apologize through revision. Reality never needed correcting. When maps are worshipped, wars emerge. When territory is encountered, astonishment returns. Some ask, how shall I know whether I have integrity? Observe what collapses when no one watches. Observe which thoughts require applause. Observe which convictions disappear in different company. Observe which kindness survives inconvenience. Observe which silence becomes unbearable. Observe what cannot remain without witnesses. There you will discover borrowed architecture, not evil, borrowed. A tree bends because rigidity mistakes itself for permanence. The river curves because destinations need not fear detours. Stars collapse into brilliance because surrender possesses densities not understood by resistance. Only humanity imagines straightness to be sacred. Nature prefers fidelity. Integrity resembles roots far more than rulers. Every argument secretly asks one question. What must remain untouched? Listen carefully. Not to the answer, to the protection. Protection reveals worship. One may worship reputation, identity, ideology, memory, victimhood, victory, failure, knowledge, humility. Even humility can become an idol polished daily. Whatever cannot be questioned quietly becomes a throne. Integrity removes thrones, not kings, thrones. Language continually overestimates itself. Words are excellent ferries, terrible continents. One should never build a civilization upon transportation. Meaning lives where language arrives exhausted, beyond description, before certainty, between recognitions. Integrity is not innocence. Innocence has never fallen. Integrity has, repeatedly, then learned the geometry of standing without pretending never to have knelt. There exists immense dignity within repaired structures. The scar possesses information the untouched surface cannot imagine. Nothing reveals character faster than unnecessary power. Observe anyone who cannot be corrected. Observe anyone who cannot apologize. Observe anyone who cannot revise. Observe anyone who cannot laugh before themselves. The fracture always appears where motion becomes forbidden. Living things continue moving. Only monuments fear adjustment. The soul possesses unusual mathematics. Division often multiplies suffering. Subtraction frequently increases freedom. Addition occasionally obscures. Multiplication sometimes amplifies illusion. Zero remains strangely fertile. Many emptinesses are secretly fields. Do not ask whether another possesses integrity. You will only inspect reflections resembling yourself. Ask instead, what within me requires another's fracture in order to remain standing? That question dissolves entire empires. There are velocities beyond speed. The velocity of forgiveness. The velocity of recognition. The velocity of relinquishment. The velocity of listening. These cannot be measured by clocks because clocks count movement through space. Integrity moves through resistance. When resistance vanishes, enormous distances disappear without motion. There exists a silence more articulate than doctrine. There exists a gaze more accurate than analysis. There exists a kindness that refuses agreement while abandoning neither dignity nor truth. Few recognize it. It carries almost no spectacle. Its footsteps leave no monuments. History rarely records it. Reality continually depends upon it. Every civilization eventually mistakes its scaffolding for the sky. Then children begin asking dangerous questions. Then poets become inconvenient. Then laughter returns. Then certainty trembles. Then the invisible foundations either deepen or collapse. One should occasionally become unintelligible to oneself, not through confusion, through expansion. If yesterday's vocabulary perfectly contains today's awareness, nothing has grown. The shell should never fit forever. Integrity possesses no opposite. Hypocrisy is merely delayed integrity. Confusion is unborn integrity. Despair is forgotten integrity. Cruelty is frightened integrity. Vanity is starving integrity. Even collapse remembers gravity. Everything eventually seeks its own center. The cosmos appears patient because it does not negotiate with haste. Mountains never argue with echoes. The sea never debates thirst. Light never announces arrival. Seeds never publish intentions. Everything essential becomes itself without advertisement. Only insecurity requires continual narration. The final gate cannot be opened, not because it is locked, because it was never closed. The traveler carried a key across deserts, defended it, polished it, named it, inherited stories about it, built identity around it. At the threshold, the key dissolved into ordinary air. The gate had been openness itself. Integrity was never entry. Integrity was discovering that nothing truthful required permission to exist. And the velocity? It cannot be calculated, for it is the immeasurable swiftness by which reality returns to itself whenever resistance finally forgets its own name.